Okay, this one is part 7, called The Joy of the Hypocrite, also known as The Hope of a Hypocrite. And this one, again, it sets us up for the mystery of the slothful. And so I'll begin to reveal some of this mystery here, which will be our part 8, inside this. And if you are sharp and can connect dots, you'll begin to understand that as well, and probably be able to figure it out as well, what that is. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to go to Job 20, verse 5. So, bam, we'll go right to it. 20, verse 5 says that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. As we talked about before, the triumphing is the joy, and short is a moment. But if you think observing times, which everyone's taught to observe times and only know the once, they don't know how to think twice, you're going to think this is just for a brief moment, and you'll be all religious like how they do in the churches, like when they try to name it, claim it, blab it, grab it, like God's going to make the wicked's time short. We know the devil just plays a short time. See, we win in the end. They sound all pretentious and stupid. And this is cringy anyways, everybody. So people need to stop doing that. So what this really is, what it means is, short moment means is that they short you. And it only lasts for as long as they can short you. Meaning, if they can't short you no more, and you go long, like you can rise up, they can't trick you. That's what this means, literally. Okay? So, the next piece to this is 27 and verse 8. So, Job 27:8 says, "For what is the hope of the hypocrite, though he hath gained, when God takes away his soul?" So, there's something about gaining. And so, to cut to the chase, I got the hope of a hypocrite, which is the joy of the hypocrite. That means those two verses we just talked about, 27:20, chapter 20 and chapter 27, is tied together because they're talking about the hypocrite. It has to do something with gaining. He says some other things about him, blah, blah, blah. But here's another piece. "Behold, all ye yourselves have seen it. Why then are ye thus altogether vain?" Vanity or vain. Remember we talked about in Ecclesiastes about its vanity, and that was about in all the words is the vain. So vanity is where you are without form and void, and what can do that is darkness, and that comes from lies, and lies in the ability for counsel, which is light, to be darkened. So now, gaining, profiting is not bad. It's what makes someone a hypocrite is how they're prospering, and they're gaining through vain means, is what this is the mystery of it. It says, this is the portion of a wicked man. So a wicked man is a hypocrite. So this is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors, which they shall receive of the Almighty. So, and there's so it talked about some other things that's going to go down, but so an oppressor is someone that gets gain off of your back. So this is just one type of oppressor. There's many types of oppression, but oppression, it says in Proverbs, is robbery. Remember Jesus said, if anyone climbs up any other way but by me is a thief and a robber, and talked about the robbers of Israel will exalt themselves to establish a vision, but they shall fall. So why would they fall? Because what happens is the righteous wake up to all this crap, and that is meant to be taught in the churches and synagogues. So notice how hypocrisy has to do with gaining, vain, and oppression. Someone would say, well, that's not talking about that. That's up here and this is down there. This is talking about the wicked man. That's not the hypocrite. Okay, let's see if someone else solved this and put it together. So if we go to Isaiah 33, it talked about, it says, the sinners in Zion are afraid. Fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. So the sinners are in Zion, and by the way, Zion was Jerusalem. So it looks like the robbers of thy people. See, it's very, you have to understand the theme of the Bible started with Job chapter 6, which is My brethren have dealt deceitfully. As the stones of brooks, they pass away. It's the brothers that dealt deceitfully or gotten deceitful deals, which is the brothers are in Zion, the robbers of thy people. So I wrote here in the margin, the robbers of thy people, Daniel 11:14, will exalt themselves, or they'll be hypocrites. Right? So fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell with everlasting burnings? He that walks righteously and speaks uprightly. He that despises the gain of oppressions. Isn't that funny how there's hypocrites again? There's the word gain again. And oppression again. But now they're all tied together really closely. You think that has anything to do with Job 27? I'm pretty sure. So, you see what I'm saying? I'm tying those together. That's how you get like line upon line, precept upon precept. So, now if we go back to Job 8:3 and 14:19, and then I want to read a couple things, excuse me, from Job that will give us an idea of what is this hope. So, and we'll go right into it. So it says, so are the paths of all that forget God, and the hypocrite's hope shall perish. So the hypocrite has something to do with forgetting God, and that hypocrite has a hope. We know that hope is tied to gain of oppressions, and we know it's the sinners in Zion. It says, whose hope shall be cut off, and whose trust shall be a spider's web. So it has something to do with a web, and it breaks down, the little chain off of this web says, he shall lean upon his house, but it shall not stand. Why? So the web is the house. This is why the hope of the hypocrite's tied up into the housing market. So, and that makes a network or a web, but a web is also like a spider's house. So when they trust in the dollar, or they trust in the denarius, or they trust in fiat currency, money changing, they trust in, that's the hope of a hypocrite. It's through gaining, and they're doing it through inflation, making rich and poor. Is what all this is, the hope of the hypocrite. And it'll perish because what happens is it doesn't last long. You know, it's this big scandal. So it's a scam. Whose hope and their trusts, they'll be cut off. He shall lean upon his house and shall not stand. Okay, so that's just another definition there. We'll go over to 14. So this is what God does about the hope of the hypocrite. It says, calls the hope of a hypocrite here. It calls it in 14:19, calls it the hope of man. The waters wear the stones and wash away the things which grow out of the dust of the earth. What possibly could grow out of the dust of the earth? If you think this is talking about natural things and really the dust and really the earth, you're reading this carnally. These are mysteries and written in symbols and in metaphors, and it has this symbolic hidden meaning that it can't be open about. But we know that dust of the earth is what God destroys, which is the hope of man. The dust of the earth is connected to these stones and this mountain. So surely the mountain falling comes to nothing. Remember I said we did see Satan fall like lightning? So you can make the wicked fall. They can be in the mountaintops. They come to nothing. And the rock is removed out of his place. And this removed is tied to like Daniel chapter 2. He removes kings and sets up kings. So God will remove the wicked. This is why every 2 to 4 years we have voting. What we do is we remove our leaders. We have a democratic republic where we elect our leaders, right? But they're for us, for the people, by the people, to the people, of the people, right? That's a wheel. When it's of God, to God, through God, for God, by God, when it's that way, it's to the least of these, it's unto me. It's where you love your neighbors yourself, and it's a wheel. It's where you pay it forward, and if everyone's paying it forward, everyone got each other's backs, we'd all scratch each other's back, right? Like we we would be a wheel, a perfect wheel. There would be, you'd be self-sustaining. Okay, you wouldn't be robbing each other. But when there's robbers, you want to remove them, and that's why we do this every 2 to 4 years. We vote so we can, maintain checks and balances and make sure there's no corruption and all that stuff. So the waters wear the stones. You wash away the things which are all the dust. So God can wear out the wicked. He can wash away all the bad things. The things is the dust, which is into the stones and the mountain. These are all parts, and you'll see that it is all parts of the Babylonian system, and God can destroy the hope of man or the hope of a hypocrite, because their hope is to be rich, and they won't be better than you. You know what I mean? They have all this power and all this wealth, and I'm so great, and you so suck, and you're too dumb to know what I know, because what they did is they pull all the education out of the schools. Okay? So that's how that works. And so far we got the hope. I think you got the hope of a hypocrite and joy of a hypocrite. Now, 1534 talks about this in a little more depth. 1534 says, "For the congregation of hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery." So a tabernacle is a congregation. This word greg means flock. So as a flock. And this congregation is also a branch or a web or a network, kind of like a grapevine, right? So all these words begin to build pictures. Okay, so it's a congregation of hypocrites, just like I said, sinners in Zion. So this means, what does this look like today? This could be in your church. This is the right hand of things. The right hand is the hypocrites. Don't get me wrong, there's hypocrites on the left, but in the Republican side, that's the Pharisee side, and they are the hypocrites. They're the congregation that gets together, and they help build the pyramid schemes because they support the dollar and all that stuff, right? The purple, the people in the middle, which is the saints, understand the red and the blue, the left and the right, and they stay in the straight and narrow, and they're kings and priests, and they're purple-pilled. See what I'm saying? So you don't want to be part of the congregation of hypocrites. You want to be part of the saints. The day of the saints, which is a new congregation, which is the revelation of Jesus Christ, as concerning the church, is hidden in here too. But this was the congregation of, or the body of Antichrist. All right? There's many Antichrists in the world. That's what this is. Okay? So it's 1534. Congregation of hypocrites. Oh, we got to go to 3028. I'm going to be jumping around a little bit in Job. Job is the foundational book. If I haven't said before, I'll say it again. 30, verse 28. And then verse 29. So 28 and 29. So it says, "I went mourning without the sun. I stood up and cried in the congregation." What is a congregation? "I am a brother to dragons. My brethren have dealt deceitfully. As the streams of brooks, they pass away." They dealt deceitfully. We'll get into that deals later. But so I'm a brother to dragons, or leviathans, or antichrists. That's what that is. Leviathan. Leviathan reproduces and multiplies himself. That's from Ezekiel and Isaiah and Job 41. He's a brother in the congregation. That means his brothers are in the congregation. They came out of the synagogue, and this was all fulfilled. You see it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John with the Pharisees and Sadducees, right? He's a companion to owls. He says, "My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. My harp also is turned to mourning, and my organ into the voice of them that weep." So if you think he's talking about himself just personally, you're going to miss the corporation of the company of the congregation. He calls the body of Antichrist a companion, a brother, the congregation, my skin. So, and this is translated later, my skin, to the flakes of his flesh, or the folds of his flesh, which is the scales of the dragon. Each one of these brothers is a piece to the body of Antichrist. They're brothers, or they're flakes, right? Their skin. And all the skin is they're the covering to the dragon. They are little dragons. They're the covering of the beast. So like they make coverage, and they stretch and spread out the cloud as concerning the congregation of the dead, which is all demonic, which is Babylonians. Everyone's involved in it. So does that make sense? So we got brother. I think, yeah, we got 1531, trust in vanity. Let's look at that again real quick before I jump ahead. So 1531 is, yeah, we should look at that. Good. So remember whose trust, the hope and the trust. It says, let not him that is deceived trust in vanity. Now we talk about vain. The hypocrisy is vain. So the Bible defines vanity as the gain of oppressions, which is in the hope of a hypocrite, which is the joy of the hypocrite. See, the hypocrites get joy when they get rich, right? And they think they got more money than someone else. I got this nice place, and I'm so great, and all those poor people over there, and they just say, oh, they're just so ignorant and stuff. But the thing is, yeah, you got an education on how to get rich and stuff, and but it's using a money system where you borrowed and you got hooked up in your job or something. And see, the more you find out you walk with God, the more you can't work in the Babylonian system, the more it pushes you out, the more you're pretty much going to be screwed. And you have to use your covenant of God to build something apart from that system. But if you're outnumbered, it's going to be really hard to build the kingdom of God. That's why you got to get conversions and let people see that in the end, like all these old money people, they're all screwed. Do you know why the old money people are screwed? And it's not the young people that can't get in because of all the inflation. They can't come up. It's not that they got to work hard. It's like it's harder than when the older people. But the reason why the old people that think they're sitting pretty are screwed is because there's a debt ceiling, and when you can't pay off the debt of America, when these other nations want to come and claim their they want to turn in their bonds, their security bonds, and they want their money back, and there's no money to give, you understand that they're going to come in and collect the nation, right? So all you people that think you own your homes, you don't. See what I'm saying? You're screwed anyway. So it behoove you to help get out of America Incorporated, old money, sell your stuff off, because you're going to lose it anyways when they go switch out the currencies and stuff. You know what I mean? If they let China come in and take us over, because we're in debt to the nations. You know, we got to pay all this stuff back. We got to pay people. They're going to want their money. So just because you may be debt free doesn't mean as a nation we are. So they can still come in and take the stuff. And then not only that, your house and everything's registered under the state, which is in Incorporated America. You have to understand that through your birth certificate, they own you. So even if you think you're debt free, you're not. You're a slave. So they can come in, take us over. So thank God there's a plan with the military undoing all of that, because the average person's too stupid because we've been dumbed down. But that's why it's vain. You don't want to trust in vanity, because in the end, it's a con. The whole thing's a con to have a central banking system. That's what this is. Trusting in vanity is trusting in the hope and the joy of a hypocrite. And that's why it says they conceive mischief and bring forth vanity. Their belly prepares deceit. My brethren dealt deceitfully. Because why is it deceitfully? Because they're in vanity. What's that vanity? The trusting in vanity, which is the hope of a hypocrite, which is darkness. He shall not depart out of darkness. So what is that darkness? For he stretches out his hand against God and strengthens himself against the Almighty. How did you strengthen yourself? Well, I worked hard for all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's cool. So you borrowed to get that house. So you're part of the system. You paid it off after about, 15 to 30 years? Cool. All right. Well, what about your children? When that inflation, you let the presidents come in, print off money. You guys didn't do nothing about it. You guys kept using the dollar. You guys didn't rally together. You didn't vote in new stuff. You just kept going. It's like, well, my stuff's paid for. I worked hard. That's cool. And not knowing that it's going to be harder for your children, their children, their children's, your children's children, right? You didn't count the steps. You're like, well, what do I have to do with that? You have every single person's involved in this. You have to understand the way money works, and you got to rally together, and you got to get the dollar backed by gold, which is a sound money system, and you got to get, you know, all the education back in the households and out of the universities and hospitals and the school system. Like this, really, it's out of the school system, but you need the Bible. It teaches you all things. All this stuff's hidden in here. Everything, how to build a nation's all in here. How to build your fathers back up and have strong homes and have your own flocks and be a source where you're not going to the market. You are the market. You know what I mean? So when what is this? You strengthen himself. How does someone strengthen himself? We're going to go over that, to strengthen yourself against the Almighty. You think you're doing something good, build yourself up. You think you're building yourself up, but you're doing it at someone else's expense, which is darkness. All right? And we're going to go over what that is. So we got 27, 12, and 13. We got to go over there. 12, 13. Well, we have that. Was it why is it altogether vain and the heritage of oppressors? So its oppression is darkness. So we've seen that. Let's go to, we need to see Luke 18. So you can see where this is in the New Testament. So you got to get the language down. What does it mean? So when you hear about vanity and about hope and the rich, what it all is. So we got Luke 18 verse 9. So I think we'll start with that one first. But it says, and he spake this parable unto certain, talking about Jesus, because his words are in red here. He's unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. So, and there he goes into a story about a hypocrite. What it looks like. Now, there's two types of hypocrites. A hypocrite is, number one, they trust in themselves. And like what we just said over there, is that they strengthen themselves against the Almighty. Because you'll find out these guys, like this isn't, I think isn't actually chapter 16, says that these Pharisees, they were covetous. See, Jesus said to him, you can't serve God and mammon. So mammon is like money, meaning the denarius is money changing. And so there were debtors and there were the rich and everything. Now, there was a way that you could make friends with the mammon of unrighteousness. That was so that you want to pay off your debts, and that's what this whole conversation was about. That this parable was about in chapter 16. But again, these guys, they justified themselves. They justify themselves of why they're covetous. They think, oh, I'm blessing God and everything, but they're using a satanic system and saying it's God, and they're supporting Rome. And these guys, if you read their stories before Rome, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, New Testament, you read that they had their own king. They were Israel, but now they're conquered and they got Rome over them, right? And so what made Rome was the money system, mammon. They're gods. It's a pagan god money system in which America is using right now. See what I'm saying? So now there's that part. There's also chapter 10. Go over 10:16. So you guys can see what we're talking about. He said, thou hast answered right. This do, and you shall live. Which is, but he willing to justify himself. See, they justify themselves, which if you're justified, you're doing good. You're doing what's right. Right? And then you bring life to people. It's okay if whatever you do, if it brings life, and it's the right thing, it's the answer, and this is what you're doing, it's good, you're justified. But these people were doing bad stuff, and they're trying to justify it as if it's something good because there's a profiting. And they're covetous. That's what I said. It says right here, Pharisees also who were covetous. Why were they covetous? Because they love to be rich. In that covetousness, they trust in themselves, or they're strengthening themselves, and they're rich and someone else is poor, or their own brothers are poor. It's not that they thought they were righteous. They despised others, and what they despised the poor is what it was. So, and they act like it's like anyone today, how Christians think they're so haughty, I'm better than you because I got this big house and everything, God bless me. And, and really, there's poor people in the body of Christ, and there's these rich pastors, poor people in the congregation, and they're not explaining how poverty works. They're not, then if they do train you in money, they want to sell it to you, and then make money off their education. It's really dumb. So, versus putting it back in the schools where your kids get it in an education with the school system. You got to put civics, government, and law back in the schools. If your kid's in a public school. If not, teach it privately in your own home. All this stuff. So, but it says that, I tell you, this man went down to his house justified, is the one that actually examines himself and knows what he really is, rather than the other. For everyone that exalts himself, or to exalt yourself is to trust in yourself, shall be abased. Right? And he that humbles himself shall be exalted. God wants you to humble yourself. And that means you got to stop thinking about yourself first. It's okay to take care of you and your house, but not at the expense of someone else. If you're building your dream home off someone else's back, and they'll never have what you're going to have, unless they do the same model and suck the life out of someone else, you're probably doing the wrong thing. You're exalting yourself. You're trusting in the self, and you're helping the money system keep going. See? And you think you're righteous, but you're self-righteous. That's what that is, self-righteousness. It's not just like, I'm self-righteous and you guys need to keep the commandments and no one can keep the commandments. It's like, no, it's not what that is. They're trusting in themselves, not that I'm trusting I'm righteous because I'm a good person. I can't keep the commandments because I need it written on my heart. That's one angle in which the church teaches. The other angle, as concerning dominion theology, is that when they trust in themselves, they're trusting in vanity, which is trusting in the hope of a hypocrite, which is gain over oppressions. They were gaining because they were covetous and they were using the money changing. But that's the puzzle pieces you got to put together, because if they openly say it, they're going to say, see, this guy's against Caesar. That's what they were trying to do to Jesus. That's actually how they ended up getting him. So, but Jesus never confessed that. But he kept his mouth shut so they would kill him because he was setting them up. But that's why they killed him, because if his teachings would go on, everyone would change everything. And it's kind of like today. If everyone becomes an American state citizen, it's going to dry up the banking from the middle and the bottom up. But thank God the military's at the top and they're switching everything out. They're playing the part of both Judas and Jesus. They're playing both sides. They're playing control oppositions where we're at. So, all right. So that's that. This Luke 18:9. All right. So we got darkness strengthen himself against. Luke 8:14 we said, and we gotta go back to Job, but I want you to see, we'll do Job because we gotta get to 6:15 there. We did 15:31, 15:35, 15. We go back to Job now. 15:25. See what that one says, because I'm pretty sure I read that one. Let's see, 15:20. Yeah, read 25. It was about. They strengthened himself against the Almighty. We got that one. So we're going to need to do 6:15. That's the root. I quoted it, but I didn't show it. I already just showed it on camera. So it says, my brethren have dealt deceitfully. Remember I talked about deceitfully in chapter 15? And as a brook, and as the stream of brooks, they pass away, which are blackish by reason of the ice and wherein the snow is hid. Now, this is all symbols and stuff. What time they wax warm, they vanish. When it's hot, they are consumed out of their place. Or when people wake up, they go away. They pass away, they wax warm, they vanish, they're consumed. This is the Holy Spirit. This is the baptism of the Holy Ghost in a fire, where the Holy Spirit begins to open up all the scriptures, and you begin to find out what is these deceitful deals that they were doing. These covetous, remember I said there's Sadducees and Pharisees, and the Sadducees and Pharisees are the doctrines of devils, the two horns on the beast, that begin to make your left hand and your right hand operations to make people divide against themselves. And this is what builds up the commercial Babylonian system of commerce. They bring in the central banking, and then they bring in their judges and their lawyers and their, their police officers or Roman soldiers. That's what they got in our nation. It's all that stuff. The media, the scribes, and this is all my secret arts and dark arts playlist. But that's about the deals. Let's see. Let's go to 41:23. I want you to see where it is, where they use these similar words about strengthening themselves. So, the flakes of his flesh are joined together. That's like the Pharisees and Sadducees, my brethren, the companions, not just the companions, the sinners in Zion. They're the flakes of his flesh, my skin. They're joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. Or they trust in themselves. Or they make themselves strong against the Almighty. And then what they do? His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone, or they're hard-hearted. When he raises up himself, the mighty are afraid. What is this? The devil raises up himself. Well, this is people are in the image and likeness of raising up themselves, where his kingdom is partly strong, partly broken, where they're strong off the back of other people. This is the rich and the poor. If we get rid of the money system, they won't want to do that because, I worked hard. Yeah, great. You worked 30 years for a house and you're proud of it. It's like ignorance gone to seed and multiplied. So just because you raise up yourself doesn't mean it's good. You're covetous, right? They're firm in themselves. They trust in themselves. They're companions, that dragons. See what I'm saying? And they love to have it so. I'm so great. God bless me. Yeah, sure he did. Nope. Yeah, just you trust in vanity. See what I'm saying? It's all the money system. It's going to go away. We got to bring back out gold. And you got to... It's better, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have, 20 kids again. Who wants 20 kids? Well, this takes care of... I have to take care of a whole army of kids. If you're stupid, you do. But if you're smart, you put in a system, they'll manage themselves. Then you have an army. Then your name is you're on an estate, and your name's in the city, and you know what I mean. Then you can take over your nations. Why wouldn't you want that? What the heck? That's like a blessing. That's the way it used to be. But they screwed all of us by bringing out this money system, getting us off the gold standard and everything else. But you see that though, raise up themselves, firm in themselves, trust in themselves, strengthen themselves against the Almighty through the trusting in. Not just firm and trust in themselves, they trust in vanity, which is a gain of oppressions. They oppress other people, they rob. It's all done through the scales of deceit. They calls it the scales of deceit later in the not Haggai, but something like that. One of the smaller prophets. So it's a lot. Oh, there's one what you see. See, can you fill his skin with barbed irons? His skin is the merchants. See, his skin. It's the flesh. So merchants is his companions. Remember about I'm a companion to owls and dragons, which is the part. They're the ones that made covenant. He'll confirm his covenant with many for 1 week, or they short scale. They're shorted. The merchants all use the dollar. This is like when was it Saddam Hussein? Whatever, he wanted to get out of the dollar. He wanted to get out of being a merchant for the devils. Right? You wanted to get into something else, and the United States was like, nah, you're going to use that dollar, man. They put a monopoly on oil. So that's the whole devil system. See, Leviathan was in our nation. It's not America's Babylon's. Babylon was in America, and we're going to kick it out. Okay? So, all right, so we got right there. Okay, so we got to go to 32:6 in Isaiah. Now you guys seen what we're defining some things. Been defining some things right now. So Isaiah 32, we're getting close to the end here. Isaiah 32. So I hope this is making sense. You got to get the original definitions of these things to understand what we're talking about. So Isaiah 32 verse 6 and 32:13. And we'll have to touch on that vial right there. what vile is. To 32:6 says, "For the vile person will speak villainy, and his heart will work iniquity." To do what? To practice hypocrisy and to utter error against the Lord. See, they're against the Lord. No matter how much they say they're good people and I'm doing this and that with my money and like I give to the church and blah blah blah, like, you know, you're against the Lord because you're setting it up to where you're using something that's keeping prices high and people got to work a long time. They're slaves. They're working now no longer to get a job done. They're working to pay bills and taxes and everything else that like makes them a slave, right? So they're not like paying the tax like Joseph set up, which was for the people, right? He was of the people and went back to the people, and he stacked for 7 years for the 7 years of famine. That's what tax is for. Is so you, if you see something coming, you can prepare for everybody. And you did a system that was for everybody, not a system that's against everybody, right? Because what that does is it makes empty your nation. So that's, if you're against the Lord, you're gonna make empty the soul of the hungry, and He will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. So, see what I'm saying? So you need to give feed food and drink to people, not take from them. And that's what villainy and iniquity is. So, and then goes down to verse 13. So here it is about the joy. "Upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars." Memorize that, thorns and briars, because this is a part of the mystery of the slothful. "What? Upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars, yea, upon all the houses of joy," the joy of the hypocrite, "in the joyous city." Bunch of houses make a city. A bunch of houses is on land that makes a city. This is Babylon. This is the hypocrisy network, right? And that's why it's called the joy, and that's all tied up to that hypocrisy. Okay, so let's see where we're going next here. So we have the joy, the houses of joy in the joyous city, and there's a couple places in Isaiah and I have to hit up Zephaniah. We're at the very end of this. So, but there was one in Job 30 verse 8. I want to read that real quick. 30 verse 8. Oh, this is a big deal here. This is another angle, like 30 verse 8. This is a story in Job where this is a puzzle piece inside Job's speech, and you got to know this about the younger. See, the devil always goes after the young people that are adults. They're the ones that are like kicked out from their house at 18. Like, all right, you're an adult now, go out and go figure it out. And your parents don't even teach you crap. So that's what, I'm going to use this pen here. So that's what these people were. These were the ones left to themselves. They're not trained in anything. So these are the younger, and whose fathers, Job says, "I would have disdained," not ordained, but disdained, "to have set with the dogs of my flock." So they're like dogs, basically. So these are worse than dogs, these younger ones. So it begins to describe what they are, but here's what it is. The main one is, they were children of fools. What kind of fools? They were thieves. You know, so, and children of base men. They were viler than the earth. So I'm going to tell you about what's villainy. What's villainy and to be vile? Well, it's the ones that are involved with the debt scheme. They're do any dirty deed to get money. And that's what these younger were doing. So they were now in inflation, and this is a different generation, and their fathers had set that up, and these guys were worse. These guys would do dirty things just to get rich. And because now there's like all this inflation, and they're trying to get what the fathers got, and they got to do worse. So, and that's what you find out in studying all of this. So that's 30 verse 8. So now we got to go. We got the joyous city, houses of joy. We know that houses and the lands were all tied to the money, which is tied to the trusting in vanity and gain of oppression. And what they gain? They gain houses and lands, and themselves better, than yours, and bigger and rich and versus poor, and the poor doesn't know how to use the money system, and you got to get certain favors to borrow from the bankers and all that stuff, and then they'll try to teach you, oh, borrow from the banks. Yeah, everyone borrows, and it makes you a slave. And when you find out how all that system works too, how the bankers through mortgaging pay themselves, it's off your trust, which is off your birth certificate. They get paid right away, everyone. The bankers pay themselves right away as soon as you sign that mortgage, and then you end up paying back your own account. The money doesn't come out of a vault. It came out of your Sesta QV trust that's tied to the Public Charitable Trust, that's tied to the Department of Fiscal Services, which is the tied to the Federal Reserve. So it's fake money, and they've been buying and selling you on the internet, or not on the internet, but the stock market for years. You got a credit side, and then they pay themselves with that. So do the judges, and so do the lawyers. That's why they want you guilty. That's why they got to take you in their court system, make you step on the trap, railroad you, put you in the court system, and get you guilty so they can take money out of your trust that you're worth, that you signed the birth certificate, your legal fiction, your straw man, your dead at sea person that they own, your name. So see if you can put that together and understand what I'm saying here. Okay, so Isaiah 32:9, this is the end of it. It's about the careless women. Okay, so the careless women. What is the careless women? So glad you asked. So, right, bink. Careless women. So it says, God's saying this, rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Well, they're at ease. Why are they at ease? Well, maybe because they're hypocrites. Well, and they're emptying out other people, and they're at ease right now, or they don't have to work by the sweat of their brow. So, how are they doing that? So glad you asked. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless or complacent women. For the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. What vintage? What gathering? I don't know. Maybe the gain of hypocrites, the gain of hypocrisy. That's what they're practicing. They're practicing villainy through the gain of oppressions, and they are gaining, and that's their vintage, and that's their gathering. And they're complacent, meaning they just make someone else do the work, and you have to owe them. So that's like a tenant, right? You owe me rent every month. All you did was move someone into a house, and they got to pay you every month for it, all right? Because they can't get something themselves, because they need a credit system, and they got to put money down, and all that stuff, right? So, and then what these people get in, they somehow get money from the bank, and then they get this house, and then they put people in there, and they get money every month, and they make money off of it. So they're complacent. That's what that is. So it says, tremble, ye women, that you're at that ease. You're at ease, and be troubled, ye careless or complacent. One, strip you, make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. Meaning, you need to stop all this stuff and tear it down. Because what happens is that upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars. You're going to be shorted, because more than one thing happens. You're going to find out that people are not going to be able to pay in the end, and they're going to get out of. They're not going to be able to pay their bills because of inflation. They're not going to have no money, and then when you can't pay your bills because someone else can't pay you, what's going to happen is you're going to end up short, and then thorns and briars comes up because the whole thing falls apart. That's what all this is saying. Okay, so we got careless women. They're complacent. So now we got two more left. We're going to go to Proverbs 132. So Proverbs 132. And Proverbs uses this exact same word, but it's going to be really interesting how all these are tied together. And so at the very end here. So Proverbs 1:32 says, for the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. Here the word prosperity complacency. You complacent women that are at ease. Remember they talk about the where you get the, what's it called? The vintage. Basically how their money comes in. All of that goes away. The vintage is going to fail. That's their prosperity. That's their gains. So Jesus talked about how they were lending out fields, right? And then what they do is they collect the money. So, and remember, this is in the parable of the talents. And it's also in, I believe it's like Matthew 20, about a vineyard. There's the owner of the vineyard, and they would lend it out. So people were doing the same thing back then as they do today. There's the prosperity of fools, which in Ecclesiastes 5 talks about the sacrifice of fools. There's the sacrifice of fools, the prosperity of fools is all tied to that money system. And this is different angles of hitting it. And it makes people complacent where they're out fishing and going to church and paying their tithes. And tithes came in off the rent. And people renting their rooms and renting houses off of them, right? And you're just a landlord that rents out buildings, right? And these people can't get what you got, and you're so great at the top. You're a landlord and noble, but really, you got a title, a deed to that house, right? That's a warranty deed, an abstract title, and you don't really own that thing anyways. You don't have the grant deed to it. You see what I'm saying? Like the state has control of that stuff. And so you're going to find out. So it says, so you're all incorporated. You're part of the B system. So everyone's stupid. They're all fools. They're all fools because they fell for it, and it's a big scam. So this prosperity, look, it says prosperity, gain of oppressions. Gain is prosperity. Gain of oppressions. You're a fool because you think you're rich off someone else's back, and you're so great, but in the end, the whole system's going to bankrupt, and when it does, that's when the other nation comes in and takes all your stuff. Even if your stuff's paid off, it doesn't matter. Like, it's how you got the title deed and everything. You have to understand that, like, if the debt doesn't get paid for, like the national debt, guess what happens? They come in and take your stuff away. And then you're conquered. It doesn't matter if I didn't owe nobody, and I didn't do nothing. No, you're part of the problem. You're in a nation that's sold out. So, figure it out, people. So prosperity is complacency. Oh, you complacent women, or you women that were so prosperous off someone's back, you're at ease, right? You're like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and chill. And what do you do? What do people do when they rent rooms? They don't have to work because their money's coming in. They go out and they do debaucherous things. They go do drugs and drink, and they go play and go, fornicate, and that's what they were doing. And people still do that crap today. Okay, so now we've got the last one, Proverbs 24:31. This is the last one. 24:31. And this will take us into the mystery of the slothful. So he says, I went by the field of the slothful, or the vintage, by the vineyard. This is where the vintage comes in from. The vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns and nettles. Remember we said that in Isaiah 32? It says, and it had covered the face thereof, and the stone walls was broken down. So, is it because this person's just so lazy and so slothful that he just didn't take care of his field? Is that what that is? Because everyone reads that and that's what they think. They say, so you don't want to be slothful and lazy because, lazy people, they just let their stuff fall apart, and that's what that is. No, it's not. See, remember I said that Proverbs, you got to set them in order. So, we're going to unravel that in the next video, but we're set up for it. This slothful has a lot to do with complacent. Because he says thorns and nettles. We'll go back over to Isaiah about thorns and nettles. Isaiah 32. So Isaiah 32. Here says, upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars, upon all the houses of joy in the joyous city. Why is thorns and briars going to come up? Now here it says, because the palaces shall be forsaken, the multitude of the city shall be left, the forts and towers shall be for dens forever, and a joy of wild asses, a pasture of flocks. And then it tells you when that ends. It says, until the Spirit be poured upon us from on high, or the Holy Spirit pours out, right? And the wilderness be a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest. So this is the Reformation or the revival. But it says that the thorns and briars come up because the palaces shall be forsaken. Why are they forsaken? This is the mystery. We're going to get into that on the next one. I'll quickly say what it's all about. We're going to prove it. Is that when the Spirit's poured out, is when people wake up. When they wake up, they leave the complacent, slothful people that are using them. See, who likes to be underneath the tyrant? No one. So when your people wake up, that's revival. And that's why the palaces, which is the land, the houses, the joy city, the palaces, the multitude city, shall be left. There's a multitude of people that are leaving, forsaking, right? That's what I said. This is what we call, God will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, or this is the atonement. You leave the world, and then God will build his kingdom. He'll tell you how it works, all right? And then you'll get houses and lands. This is what Jesus promised. He says, there's been no man that has left houses and lands and brothers and sisters. That's Matthew 19. Right? For my sake in the Gospels, I won't receive 100-fold now of houses and lands. In the life to come eternal, for the first will be last, last will be first. That's what this is. Woohoo! We got it, folks. So, yes, these women, they're complacent. They're pieces of crap. That's all the feminism. I got my house, and I got it through the bank, and I know how to run a business. Yeah, sure you do. Okay, you're a hypocrite. Okay, you empty out the soul. You're building your dream home off someone else's back. Right? Here we go. What's it called? It's called dealing treacherously. Woe to thee that spoils, and thou was not spoiled. So they're spoiling you, and they're dealing. Our brethren dealt deceitfully. Actually, let's go to that 21:2. I think that was the one of them I wanted to read. There's also 22:2. So 21 says, a grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer deals treacherously. Right? So it says that in the spoiler spoileth. So they try to spoil you and take all your stuff. You owe me money. You owe me money. Give me my money. Yeah, I had someone do that to me too. It was sad, man. So, but it says you are full of stirs, a tumultuous city, a joyous city. The slain men are not slain with the sword, nor dead in battle. So, they call it a joyous city. Oh, we got to do Zephaniah 2:15. So that's actually the last one. We do Zephaniah. And that should be all of them. Micah. Nahum. So Zephaniah says, this is the rejoicing city. What are they so? They got the joy of the hypocrite. That dwelt carelessly or complacently. Right? Which is, they dwelt at ease. Well, I'm good. I got safety and security. Well, you guys traded in safety and security, for freedom. I mean, you guys thought you were sitting pretty. You guys, it was a scam because you couldn't count the steps, many steps down the road. And then said in your heart, I am, and there's none else besides me. Right? Or you could say they trusted in themselves. Right? They strengthened themselves against the Almighty. Because God or the Almighty is I am. But now she's become a desolation, or got thorns and briars. See? A place for beasts to lie down in. Everyone that passes by shall hiss at her, wag his hand. Like, look at that. Shame. Right? Because what they do? Because they reproach and magnify themselves against the people of the Lord of hosts. See, they magnify themselves, they exalt themselves, they trust in themselves, and that's called pride. Or the pride of life, right? And it's the same thing. See how Zephaniah saying all the same stuff? They magnified themselves against their border. So it's a reproach. It's revilings. It's all, they'll try to shame you to do what they're doing. Like, Like, you know, like, oh, he's learning that off the internet. Oh, he's a sovereign citizen. Oh, you one of those sovereigns? Like, oh, you're a cult. Like, they'll try to shame you and reproach you, but the thing is, what they're doing, oh, yeah, if you were so God's with you, how come you don't got a house? Okay, all you mockers and scoffers that's saying that, you're about to, I can't wait. It's coming. They're already talking in the mainstream now about they finally took everything that was on the internet about the dollar going away and the brick system. They just said on the mainstream. So it's coming. Yep, it is coming. So now you guys know what's up. I broke down the joy of the hypocrite. That's so you got thorns and briars that comes from the Great Awakening. So that's going to be the mystery of the slothful we're going to get into here next. Okay, so we now know that the prosperity of fools is the gain of oppressions, where, you know, like if you think that you're renting a room and just because it's a nice place, you think that you're blessed, don't be a fool. And don't, you know, because when's that rat race going to end? If you're renting a space for a dance studio and you think you're so great because, you know, you think, oh, I'm this great dancer and I got this dance studio making all this money. Yeah, you think that's going to last forever? Like, when's that rat race end? You got rent every month. So when's that rat race end? That's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, the rat race has to end. We got to switch up the America to be unincorporated.